So thank you, everyone. I'm Alberto Saracho from Fundacion Idea, which is a policy think tank. We do a lot of work on innovation and entrepreneurship in general. I know a lot of you, especially the Mexicans that are out there, so I'm glad to see everyone. So since we're very tight on time, we're going to start by a quick 30-second, 45-second introduction by everyone. So you also have microphones? Okay, go ahead.
My name is Miura-Ko. In this session, I'm representing Stanford. I teach there, where I also got my PhD, but I'm also an investor at Floodgate.
My name is Victor Gonzalez. I'm representing ITAM, who is a private university in Mexico. I'm within the computer science department, and I'm part of a team of professors that are working on entrepreneurship, putting together engineering and management and business.
And my name is Jose Pacheco. I used to work at MIT. I was the director of the program for entrepreneurship at MIT for 7 years. And now I'm working with the foundation that we spun out of MIT. That's a global biotechnology competition, as well as 2 startups that also came out of MIT.
Hello, my name is Sergio Ortiz. I coordinate all academic entrepreneurship academic programs in Tecnológico de Monterrey. As well, I am an entrepreneur, and I'm very happy to be here.
Well, thank you, everyone. I know Jose has some PowerPoint slides. Do you want to get them, and then we can start the discussion?
Yes, and actually, so if we could get the slides up, and this ties in directly into what Mike and Alan were saying about the creation of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. If my slides, oh, there we go. So one of the things one of my mentors said is, you can tell how much a speaker loves their audience by the length of their talk. So I've taken 60 minutes and condensed it into 2 minutes, and so that means I really love you guys. So we're going to go through this really quickly. Where's the clicker? Here we go. And in 90 seconds or so, I just want to take you a little bit of history of how the entrepreneurial ecosystem developed around MIT, because I think it's very instructive. And so first, the school was founded in 1861 as a technical research university. And over time, of course, it added other disciplines, humanities and management. And it was not only a place to do research and be an ecosystem of education, but also a place to introduce the workers into the workforce. And of course, the alumni network was very important because it was that network of trust that we heard about earlier. If you wanted to do entrepreneurship, however, it also had a little bit of that going on prior to World War II, but what really happened and really accelerated entrepreneurship at MIT and a lot of American research universities was the war, because a lot of research money went into the war, into universities to support the war effort. And so from there, you actually got a lot of companies coming out of universities like MIT, like Stanford, and also the beginning of major sponsored research. And as a result, a lot of the research in the professions, law, management, medicine, and the technical engineering really became much more prevalent than the humanities and social sciences. That's recently changed, and I'll tell you more about that. And all those things that we now associate with universities actually resided outside: mentorship, peership, access to tools, developing an identity. All these things that we think entrepreneurs need to do were part of kind of workforce development. What's happened in the last 20, 30 years or so is that a lot of universities like MIT are now asked to do all this inside the curriculum. And so everything from mentorship to peership, access to capital, developing multidisciplinary teams, providing workspace for entrepreneurs, for students to actually develop business ideas. This is kind of the modern university, if you will, in entrepreneurship. And apart from being now an ecosystem of education and introduction, it is an ecosystem of disruption. And it's disrupting a lot of things. In part, and given where we are, it's because of this global perspective and the diversity that's come into the university system. And so these things that are being asked to be done in the university become specific programs that I think we're going to talk about in the next few minutes. And from everything from providing incubator space to creating multidisciplinary teams to bringing, as we've talked about, entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs back into the classroom, to having faculty as entrepreneurs, students as entrepreneurs, all these things are formal programs and policies that current universities are now being asked to do and that feed into the development of an entrepreneurial ecosystem. And so it's really more like this nebulous cloud nowadays. And as we think about what's happening in Mexico, I think we'll get into quite a few of these things that are now happening here. And I'll just leave off here that the entrepreneurial ecosystem within the university is part of a larger entrepreneurial ecosystem that I think we're going to talk about tomorrow. And so with that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Jose. So as Undersecretary Martinez explained in the opening remarks, for the past 6 to 12 years, there has been a lot of talk about entrepreneurship in Mexico. If I have the correct numbers, 6 years ago, we had around 100 incubators in Mexican universities. Now we have more than 500. And I would like to pick on some of my Mexican colleagues on the panel to talk about what has been the experience of Mexican universities in promoting entrepreneurship. And as the name of the panel suggests, can the university actually create entrepreneurs, or what is the role that the Mexican universities are having on entrepreneurs? And please feel free to jump in.
Okay. Well, I think there are a number of things going on in ITAM in the last couple of years, which we have been intensifying both the training and the orientation to promote entrepreneurship among the students. But just let me mention 3, I think, points that could be important, for, not just for ITAM, but in general for private and public universities in Mexico. I think number 1, universities could do a lot in terms of promoting a culture of innovation, entrepreneurship, by, yes, teaching and giving courses and training, but that generally one of the main challenges you find there is that sometimes is the business school taking some sort of ownership on that and saying, okay, it's a business school, this is something that has to be done by us, and that's it. Or the engineering school, and I think it has to be interdisciplinary. We believe that we have to put together initiatives that the institution basically support, where we have together professors and students from different disciplines. And that's a basic ingredient and has been working well with our projects. I think for many reasons, one of the reasons is because as a successful company, we have many disciplines, many orientations, and many skills that are required to make the business successful. Number 1 is, I think, it's a lack of connection between, and I think was mentioned that before, research and innovation. I think the main challenge we see there is that first of all, we start thinking about innovation and promote innovation within our students, but without considering what the university labs are producing. And there are many good things going on in Mexico, in the labs, in terms of academia, but not the good connection between those results and what could be a good business model to make them possible. And unfortunately, in Mexico, one of the challenges that is the CONACYT and other bodies, sometimes a little bit, they try to push a little bit on researchers to become entrepreneurs. And I just don't buy it. I believe, if researchers are good doing research and publishing papers, so leave them alone. Some of them could become good entrepreneurs, but not all of them. I think the model could be one based on students taking the ideas, creating spin-offs, and then to develop the ideas. Well, first of all, you have to look at home and see what you're producing. And I think finally, one of the things that universities have to push more is on becoming hubs for innovation and entrepreneurship. I think we need to use the infrastructure of our universities to bring people, and yes, to create a network inside with professors, with the students, with the staff, but also to look at what is happening out there, what is happening with the public, companies, small, medium-sized companies that could be interested in becoming part, in participating. And that ingredient, becoming hubs and having open house policy, so that people in the community can see, well, every week, every month, there is something going on at ITAM, UNAM, IPN, or any other institution, and they can join, participate, and network. because basically it's with connections, with networking, that we are going to create those networks. And I think those things we have been working on in the last few years, but in general could be used in many other contexts in Mexico, in different places, not just Mexico City, but in other places.
Great, thank you. Last November, last year, I had the opportunity to go to MIT and to Stanford to look at how you were engaging the researchers with the private sector. And I heard the same, you could say, problems that Mexican universities face. Nevertheless, we Mexicans believe that at least these two universities have solved the engagement with the private sector. So I would ask Anne if you could talk a little bit about how Stanford works with the private sector and the research community to make entrepreneurs and promote them.
Yeah, there's actually a very strong connection, not surprisingly, between the private sector and Stanford. And I would actually characterize it in sort of two different categories. What we found with cloud computing and commoditized technology is that it's really easy for technical students to actually come up with products that can then be turned into companies. And what that means is it used to be, it had to come out of a lab. So a professor had to sort of sponsor research, and that sort of, radioactive plutonium of technology then went out and became something really, really awesome. Now we're seeing a lot of undergrads who just have a computer science degree, or maybe not even computer science degree, going out, creating new products, launching companies. So I think that's really interesting, number one. Number two, then you see some of the more well-known companies coming out of Stanford, whether it's the Googles of the world, are results of PhD-level research. The rate of companies being born out of that kind of research, I believe, is actually very, very consistent. So it doesn't really change up or down in any given sort of trend cycle. And so consumer internet, when it becomes hot, you see a ton of undergrads, leaving Stanford to go start up their next new, Instagram. Yet if you look at the rate at which PhD students drop out, I would think that it's probably fairly consistent. And what we've seen is that level on the technical side, the partnership between private and the students, there's lots of different avenues in which we see students trickling out. And I think number one is the infrastructure by which very technical PhD students have sort of the flexibility to actually leave. And it's very, very open and supportive. So a really great example is even my own personal experience. I was in the middle of my PhD program when Mike Maples approached me and said, you should drop out of the PhD program and co-found this fund with me. And I felt really sheepish at the time, going back to my advisor and saying, there's this crazy guy saying he wants to start a fund with me. But my advisor barely blinked twice before he said, well, why don't you try doing both at the same time? And in my cohort of researchers in our lab group, there's already 2 students who've already left, take time, leaves of absences in order to be able to do that. And so it's that supportive environment amongst the professors that I think creates that entrepreneurial drive. There's nothing really to be lost by doing so or to even talk about it. That said, I think a lot of researchers and professors still really pride themselves on their academic research, right? And so there's still a barrier to just freely saying when you first enter into Stanford that your aspiration is not to become an academic, but to just leave and become a startup co-founder. And I think that's where the challenges lie. How do you actually translate that technical insight that's being born out of university research and turn it into real products and real companies? When we go out in classrooms at Stanford and ask for students who are truly technical in computer science, electrical engineering, material science, bio, to think about companies that they want to found, 9 times out of 10, I don't get even product ideas, I get research papers. And so how do you translate that into a product? And then from a product into a company, a business model, those are huge leaps, and those are the places where I like to focus in terms of education.
Thank you. I actually believe that cultural aspect of entrepreneurship is a huge challenge in Mexico, and I think if you think about entrepreneurship and a university, in Mexico, the top of mind is the Tec de Monterrey. So what is the Tec doing to promote that entrepreneurship culture, and has it been successful at it?
Well, for hundreds of years, if not more, universities has been made for trained people to be employees, at best researchers. But universities are not made to produce entrepreneurs. Actually, we believe that it's easy to produce undergraduate degrees, master degrees than an entrepreneur. But what we are really thinking about is the creation of wealth. Who are the people who create wealth? Where is the process? So this is the third mission of the university, which is really recent, relatively recent in the universities, has put interest in this subject. Because this subject is kind of cosmic, because it's not enough for even research about this process of an entrepreneurship. One of the biggest advances in entrepreneurship is to say that this is a process. It's not an inspiration, not just an inspiration, it's a process. It's a complex process. And in our vision, it's a mistake to put an appendix of the business school, as you said. Monterrey Tech, trying to promote this entrepreneurial spirit and attitude, is founding the entrepreneurship faculty, independent of business school and independent of engineering school. I think it's one of the first schools to create entrepreneurship, trying to research, trying to do this mission. When we did the first academic programs, we start for a compulsory course about entrepreneurship. Then we have a minor, then we have a major. Now we have different programs. But what we found is that the university has a lot of obstacles. How to put a grade in a person who is teaching business and he wants also to be entrepreneur. But it's not the same to be a manager than an entrepreneur. It's different skills. So for us, one of the mistakes or at least lack of evolution at universities, don't go beyond of business plans. I have seen hundreds, if not more, of business plans, and in all of them, when you see the financial projection, all of them is go up 5 years, going to be a public a public company in the NASDAQ and all over the world. But it's just an assumption. Business plan is an assumption, and philosophically, we say it's wrong, because entrepreneurship is not about planning. Or it's about planning, but mainly is about experimenting. It's to do experiments with the students. It's about make mistakes soon. The sooner, the better you know are making the mistake. So we are changing, as you said, just not as a part, not you say it's besides the curricula, it's inside the curricula. This is an important change we have made. It's inside the curricula. We put different experience. We obligate. We made in some students, we say, I don't want to be entrepreneur, I want to be employee. And they claim sometimes. But after the different experience, we say, oh, this is kind of opportunity. And another important thing is what has been mentioned here, is to expose the students to role models. I mean, Steve Jobs is okay, it's all these big role models, but also expose the students to alumni, young entrepreneurs, and say, it's not far away from me. It's not far away from me. This is the kind of changes that Monterrey Tech has been done in the last, recently, about 2-3 years from now.
Yes. Well, definitely one of the challenges, at least in the Mexican context, is in culture. I mean, is the role that failure has in the culture. I mean, Mexico, failure is punished very hardly, not just economically, but culturally. I mean, no one wants to hire someone that failed. And when you talk to entrepreneurs that talk to venture capital funds, they say that if they failed before, the investors look down upon them. So Jose, I know you through the contest you work with people from all over the world. What do you see from the different cultures regarding failure, and especially Mexico?
Well, I think I first want to make a comment about, we're talking about the culture of entrepreneurship. And one of kind of the current thoughts is that a culture of entrepreneurship is actually an emergent property of different ecosystems interacting to create that culture. And so the ecosystem within the university that we develop entrepreneurship, the ecosystem that Anobu referred to, Alan referred to about outside of the university and having the financing, having the venture capital, having the entrepreneurs, all those in themselves are smaller ecosystems. And so over time, those ecosystems emerge, or they create this emergent property of this culture that matures, Silicon Valley or around Cambridge. And so going back specifically to your question, until a ecosystem, a larger entrepreneurial ecosystem is mature enough, it's essentially the job of each one of those individual ecosystems to teach and support the nurturing of overcoming failure. And I think that's what universities have been asked to do, and we've been asked to do for a long time, especially the engineering-based schools. It's no secret that a lot of MIT students, when they first get there, and I imagine to a lot of top-tier schools, for the first time realize they're not the smartest person in the room. And it's perhaps also the first time that they might fail in a class. So overcoming that and learning that that's just part of the process is now not only being asked of us to teach in an academic sense, but also to inculcate or teach in a larger entrepreneurial sense, if you will.
Thank you. Having someone from Stanford and from MIT, probably the two top universities in tech and entrepreneurship in the US and probably in the world, and having the two of the many Mexican universities that also promote entrepreneurship, what would you say, in the case of Stanford, are the three most important things that the Mexican universities can do to promote high-impact entrepreneurs?
Wow. So I think number one is, and actually Stanford is quite guilty of this in terms of whether or not we're doing a good job. I would say we could do a better job in this area, which is that not everyone should be a founder, right? And so this is something that we talk about with a lot of our students. There's this great founder worship in Silicon Valley, and the truth of the matter is it's better to be, employee 100 at Facebook than employee number 1 of some no-name company that no one's ever heard of or will ever hear of. And sometimes these ideas are not good enough for the student who's pursuing it. And this comes to my second point, which is the community and the mentorship around these students needs to be honest. So if someone's pursuing an idea that's not good enough for them, you should tell them. You should tell them right away, and you shouldn't beat around the bush. And what I love about the Stanford environment, if there's one thing that they've done really well, it's the mentorship piece. So in any class that I teach, I'll reach out to probably, 10, 15 mentors to come in and not only lecture in the class, but also be a part of mentoring our students. Inevitably, I get 30 or 40 mentors who are just coming in and asking to be a part of that. And I only sent out 15 emails. So how does that happen? It's just sort of this excitement around providing the right type of advice to students. And also once you have it easier to also want to give back and to really pay it forward. I see so much of that within just 2-3 miles of Stanford. It's always astonishing to me how much the most world-class people want to give back. I had Diane Green, who was at the time CEO of VMware, being a mentor to a group of entrepreneurial students in one of my classes. And they almost had no idea who she was because she was devoting so much time. So that level of mentorship, I think, is always astounding, but profoundly important, as has already been pointed out. And the third is, and I've seen this also, both within Stanford, Silicon Valley, is to give opportunities to people who are young. And this goes back to either that they're a founder or they're joining a company. Give them opportunities if they're smart and motivated that are outsized. So, and I've been the beneficiary of this as well. Provide real entrepreneurship or mentorship opportunities to people that are way beyond what you think they're capable of, and you'll be shocked at how much they rise to that occasion.
Thank you. What about from Jose? Lessons from MIT.
Do I have my slide back? Apart from the mentorship, I think one of the most important things right now that we've seen within the MIT ecosystem is this, it's already been mentioned before, is this big vision, this global vision. Because now your competitors are coming from every part of the world, and they will continue to, even more so. And as more of these entrepreneurship ecosystems and regions develop, it's going to be more important for the students to, from day one, as they think about their careers and to think of entrepreneurship as a vocation, to realize they're in a global stage. So I would say that's the mentorship, in addition to that global vision that global mentors provide, I think would be the second one. And then the third would be practice. Going back to, I think, what you said about being able to experiment, to test out, and going back to failure, being able to work in a startup, even while you're an undergrad, and maybe do it as part of an internship, do it as part of an externship, to be able to really feel and see what it is to be in a startup. It is, as someone mentioned, so emotional, so personal, and until you actually experience it, I don't think you really understand what it is. And so being able to provide those opportunities wherever in the world they may be is very important. That would be my third.
Thank you. Now, I know I only have 5 more minutes, but I still want to go back to Victor and to Sergio. We have in front of us a lot of potential investors to Mexican entrepreneurs. What would you say are the biggest strengths of the Mexican entrepreneur in your experience at ITAM?
I think, at least in the context of ITAM, because it's a small university, but at the same time, students have a lot of opportunities to interact with others, and there are many chances that students that will create a company have, let's say, good connections, let's say, a good context to start a company. I think, in general, what I see, not just in ITAM, but in general in Mexico, there is a huge interest on creating companies and just breaking the model of just becoming an employee. But as you say, they need role models, but it's not just about to bring these top high-level guys, but also to insert the models within the university. What we have been doing, and basically to promote, is to involve students from early stages in their career, let's say second year, even first year, to start projects that could turn into companies. We have at least 3 examples in ITAM of companies being operated by students in the second year of their career. And those are the role models that you want to see, and those are the kind of students that you will find. I think there are a lot of skills, of course, technical skills, but also students with business skills and marketing skills. And we basically are working together to put them together, to create teams of students that could complement each other, and then create more chances for companies to be successful.
And what about in the case of the tech? And if you could talk about a little bit of one example or so.
Well, we have several examples, but I think I would like to say something for the universities. Teaching how to write a business plan is not teaching entrepreneurship. It is because I'm going to have to take the entrepreneurship club, how to write the business plans. You can find that in the internet, more than 1 million sites to how to write a business plan. And the second thing is not put unnecessary obstacles in the students. In all Mexican universities, I am pretty sure we have a lot of entrepreneurial talent. Select them. And when you have them, don't put unnecessary obstacles. Embrace them. Support them with correct mentoring. And they will fail, but they will come up with something. Maybe not all of them will be a successful entrepreneur immediately, but they will come up with something. In this kind of culture, we need to promote in the universities. For me, it's a cultural thing. It's not about the talent. You have the correct mentoring. With creativity, we had different ways to put entrepreneurship, the process of entrepreneurship, inside the curricula. This is when we say, we have many examples. Fortunately, we have all kinds of entrepreneurs, technology-based entrepreneurs. Maybe entrepreneurship by itself could be cultural, and it is not associated to university or university degree. But technologic entrepreneurship is associated to university studies. So, and the thing here is that one of the organizations in Mexico and Latin America, or one of the few organizations that can develop technology with the intention to put in the market is the university. Multinationals are not transferring technology to the country. One of the organizations, the few organizations in Mexico that can do that is the university. So I am very positive of what universities can do in Mexico.
Well, thank you. And now we're going to jump into the Q&A session. I don't know if anyone, could you please say your name, where you come from, and remember that a question ends with a question mark.
Thank you. I am Paula Hurtado from Algo en Común, a social rating agency. And my question is, what is the role of the Mexican public universities promoting entrepreneurship? Because no one in the public universities is already there. So what do you think that are the challenges?
So, Sergio, Victor.
I think there are at least 2 or 3 universities. I mean, Politécnico, the Centro de Investigación en Computación has been promoting that. UNAM, of course, and some public universities, big ones like Universidad Autónoma de Nuevo León. I think there are initiatives, but I perceive a little bit of disconnection between the different faculties and schools. As I said before, sometimes you see a lot of interest, but of the business school or the engineering school, but not together, or something that becomes institutional, like a training program for all the students that guarantees that everybody has a chance and opportunity. And the other is the incentives. I think many public universities, at least professors, they get the promotion based on research and not necessarily on creating opportunities for students to create new companies. So promotion should consider that. Should be, I mean, how many companies are you helping to create? That will make a difference. In public universities, that is particularly the case, that are less likely to be recognized by doing that. But I think there are opportunities to change that. It's just a matter of how to put that in the scheme of promotion. I see, I have contacted many friends in public universities. I can see that those are some of the challenges.
Well, I just can say my vision. My vision is not the vision of Monterrey Tech, but I say that what I see is marginal efforts. I think it is true, Universidad de Nuevo León, UNAM, Politécnico, but I think it's just starting. We need to multiply by 100 the initiatives we have now, and I think it's quite possible.
I just wanted to mention, following up on Paula's question, that Mexico still doesn't have the equivalent of the Bayh-Dole Act. So researchers from public universities cannot benefit in any way from the results of the intellectual property of the research. So that creates a huge problem on incentives. Any other question? Robin, go ahead.
We'll take 2 more questions. One right here.
Hi, thank you. My name is David Height. I'm a developing market enthusiast, having lived outside the States for the last 20 years. And I'm also currently the CEO of a Mexican startup company the last 2.5 years. The question I have is about mentorship. If you ask 100 people their definition of what's an entrepreneur, you'll get 100 different answers, I imagine. then to be a mentor to an entrepreneur sounds like even a more challenging thing to define. So, Anne, maybe starting with you and then any other panelist, could you describe a little bit about the qualifications of a good mentor?
The qualifications of a good mentor. I think the number one thing I've seen work is the chemistry between that mentor and that individual. So I've seen a wide variety of characteristics and the qualifications of a mentor. Typically what we're finding, especially for entrepreneurs, is that the best mentors are people who have relevant operational experience to that mentee. And if they have, so if the center of gravity of a particular company, for example, is sales and marketing, oftentimes it's great to have a sales and marketing guru come in and be a CEO coach or a mentor to that person. But the second really important ingredient is actually that trust-based relationship and some degree of chemistry, and that's really hard to qualify. But what we tend to do at Floodgate is introduce a number of people to that particular CEO or entrepreneur and see who sort of sticks or fits. But I think the number one qualification ends up being some sort of history and background in that particular operations area and excellence in knowledge base.
Yeah, so I would add to it that perhaps putting it another way, a mentor is someone that's done it before, has been there, and knows what you're going to go through in part. And the second is perhaps a little more on the coaching side. A lot of mentoring sometimes is listening, because you do go through a lot of difficult times and you have a lot of questions or doubts. And so just being able to talk through what the different options are with someone that can evaluate, based on previous experience, what might happen or give you some insight is actually very useful for the entrepreneur, even if there is no exact or right answer. It's just that talking through aspect. And so having gone through it, and I would say listening, which is a very nebulous thing to say, but it is.
I have another question right here.
Hi, my name is Cesar. I am a venture capitalist and at 500 startups. And my question is, like during the last decade, we've seen incubators as a common practice within our universities. However, it seems like they have a poor performance, at least from the high impact entrepreneurship point of view. What do you think is the future of university incubators?
Well, it's like every university wants to have an incubator, but this process is, how do you find mentors, as was mentioned here? It's not easy to find good mentors. So the future universities, the important or the most important thing of that incubator or incubation systems can do is the mentoring. I mean, it's not a physical building, it's the mentoring. So the better the mentoring, the better the results, the better the results. For me, mentoring is as a key or the key element for the incubation process. And maybe a kind of romantic definition, but I just want to comment about the last question, because I remember one of our mentors who is really an example. Say, for me, mentor is how to help people, and I remember what he said. It's how I'm going to become reality the dreams of these kids. It's like he wants to help just because he feels happy with that. Could be romantic, but this is our most successful mentor in our incubation system.
At least in ITAM, we are not sure. We're still struggling defining if we want to have an incubator or not, because we don't. And one of the things that we believe that could be better, or at least straight, would be to, as I say, to create a context to become a hub. So people from the community could come to ITAM, and then they have these chances to interact with students. In one of the courses we teach last semester, we invite small and medium-sized companies to become partners with the students to create some initiatives, and that's what's a very good way to connect the students with the things going on outside in a safe environment, if you let me say that. But that kind of interaction, and also to create a sense of continuity, not just one event, one-off event, and that's it every year. No, every month, every week, something going on in our buildings, so we could have this kind of context. And it's an alternative, and perhaps for many different reasons we don't have yet. But as a way to provide an alternative, that could be one way to do it.
And you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I'm going to say something a little bit controversial, but I think the incubator in universities is a fallacy. So I believe that, so we have a program at Stanford called StartX, which I think is a great model. It's a model in which they don't take ownership, right? And so it's not providing funding for the sake of, as a small angel would, take ownership or equity stake in a company. It's to provide space for students to experiment with their startups. It's a place for the networks to get together and for mentors to go to one single location and provide mentorship. And I think that incubation model is really great because it takes out the fear from the student's perspective of saying, you know, they're going to take some egregious amount of my company away from me. I'm not really sure what I'm getting into, and it allows them to come in and tinker, which I believe is the whole point of the university experience. And so my argument would be the incubator of the future is one in which you just provide space and that a place where people can congregate to talk about their entrepreneurship experiences and for mentors to come and provide their experiences.
Well, to make it very brief, let me just reinforce, I think, and make it very simple. Incubators and universities are dead because they were the first generation, just like we saw, of the first attempts to figure out how do we support entrepreneurship. Didn't work. They were there too long. They weren't talking to potential customers. And so the next evolution are now kind of these workspaces, accelerators. Those are living now. Something else will emerge. But the key point is you got to kick them out. They got to go talk to customers. They got to solve a problem and create value. And they got to do it in a certain amount of time. And so what do you call that? There's names for them, but it's certainly not an incubator.
Well, thank you very much to the four of you. We're on time, so I think Robin is happy with me. And so I don't know who's coming up next. Robin, do you want to do the announcement?
Thanks,
you.
guys.